All right, so today we're going to take a closer look at Nvidia. We're about a week away from earnings, and in the past 48 hours or so, we've received two price target updates for this stock. I do believe both of them are over $800. So I want to take a closer look at some of the notes we got from those price target analysts that increased it, and I just want to share my overall thoughts. Before we get started, I also want to give you an update on some of the videos I have in store for this channel. First, I have an AMD and Intel update. Then I want to do a TSMC versus Nvidia. And we actually have some pretty cool updates on Nvidia's Grace CPU that I want to do by this weekend as well. So make sure to stay tuned. And for those not familiar, my name's Jose Najarro. I spent way too much time reading about semiconductors and AI. Thanks to that, my work experience and my education, I do believe I have created the number one semiconductor podcast for investors. So let's get started with today's episode. I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode. So first, we did get two price target updates that I do believe investors should be familiar. First was from UBS, and UBS increased their price target to $850 from $580, and they maintain a buy rating. They did mention that UBS has talked to a lot of customers from Nvidia and have confirmed that Nvidia's lead times have come in substantially over the past few months, meaning shipping slots are still available in the second half of calendar year of 2024. And usually, when we hear something like this, where lead times are getting shorter, I do believe it kind of incites some fear. Hey, does this mean that demand is not as high as before? Does this mean that we're seeing kind of a lot of pressure from competitors? And I don't believe that's the case. And same with this analyst. This analyst says that, hey, look, normally this is bad, but demand for AI compute capacity is still so strong. In the near term, we think this is just points to significant upside potential to shipment revenues. And I do believe I agree with this analyst here, because in the past earnings, we've heard a lot from big tech players. We've heard from Microsoft, we heard from Meta, we heard from Google, we've heard from Amazon, even from Tesla, that, hey, look, we're going to continue to invest in AI infrastructure and AI GPUs and AI servers. So right now, the demand for these AI hardwares is still pretty high. Now, what I do want to say is this kind of shows us a bullish thesis to some extent, because it does mean that the supply constraints that we are seeing with NVIDIA's H100 GPUs are improving. And this is something that has kind of limited NVIDIA's revenue right now, right? NVIDIA's revenue right now is limited because of supply constraints. Right now, TSMC does not have enough CoWoS capacity to meet up with demand. And NVIDIA and TSMC every quarter have mentioned that, hey, look, things are improving, and they're improving sequentially, and they're going to improve sequentially throughout the year. TSMC even mentioned that if they, even with the improvements that they're doing, they don't believe that by the end of this year, they will be able to keep up demand. So right now, this is just showcasing that, hey, look, they are staying true to the world, true to their word, that supply issues are being fixed. And this is going to overall help NVIDIA's boost their overall revenue growth. Back to this UBS analyst, they do believe that NVIDIA beats on data center by somewhere between 2.5 to $3 billion. That's beating. And that would mean that this quarter four earnings report will have roughly $19.5 billion in data center revenue versus $16.8 billion. I think that is insane. It's a crazy number of how much money Nvidia will be making here in the data center market. The other thing that this UBS analyst has mentioned is they have heard from customers that Nvidia continues to raise prices on the H100, even though they are seeing the ramp up of the H200 and the B100. And this again continues to showcase the demand front for their product, right? If a new product is coming out, the H200 and then the B100 right after that, normally you tend to see cheaper prices or a discount on the current generation, right? And that's not the case. You're seeing an increase in the current generation, and then you're most likely also going to see an increase in the new generation when that comes out. So overall, this just kind of showcases that there's still a huge bullish demand for Nvidia's AI solution. I mean, if we take a closer look at Nvidia's forward PE ratio by the end of this year, is expected to drop down to 35. Again, many investors believe that's still cheap. Personally, like I've talked about in a lot of episodes, Nvidia's already my number one position on more than a quarter of my overall portfolio, right? So Nvidia is one that I personally don't feel comfortable adding too much at these levels because it's already such a big position in my overall portfolio. But if I was right now, in my opinion, it's time to dollar cost average. And I don't know, to everybody, their own risk to reward ratio. So I do want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on Nvidia in the current valuation? And we did get another price target today, and this one was from Susquehanna, where they increased their price target to $850. The prior price target was 625, so almost very similar to UBS. We're getting those price targets of $850 or 800 plus. Right now, Nvidia is sitting at 723. So there is a lot of excitement for Nvidia, and sometimes that does worry me. I want to hear from you guys when all these analysts start piling through to the excitement of the AI of the market and the overall stock and start increasing price targets. Sometimes that worries me that, hey, look, everybody is getting too overly excited. At the end of the day, though, I do see the long-term opportunity where maybe Nvidia could see some pull downs or something within the next 12 months. I do believe within the next 5 years, Nvidia will still be a multi-trillion dollar company. Very similar to kind of the UBS analysts, and I do believe this is what we're going to continue to hear, is they believe AI demand remains strong. They mentioned it's helped by their better hyperscale capex guidance and recent commentary from big tech giants. If you have been following this channel, that's what we've noticed and that's what we've talked about. So I think it's pretty crazy how some of these analysts wait almost 2-3 weeks after kind of all these earnings happen already before kind of announcing things like this. But overall, we are seeing the strong orders of GPU purchases. One thing they did mention that they're worried about, and they see some worried, is that there's going to be a pocket of weakness when the B100 comes out. So what they're worried right now is that, hey, look, everybody knows that the B100 is going to come out. So we're going to start to see a slowdown probably in H100s. And normally that's the case, right? Let's say you have the PlayStation 4 and let's say right now the PlayStation 5, but let's say we know that PlayStation 6 is coming out next year. Most people are going to be like, hey, look, I'm not going to buy the PlayStation 5 now. I'm going to wait for the PlayStation 6. And that's usually the case. But I do believe that there's so much pent up demand for the H100 that there won't be any pocket of weaknesses. Maybe we might start to see some slowdown by big tech players on ordering the H100, but you have a lot of small players and a lot of other customers like countries that want to pick up the H100. So revenue will still be able to continue to grow over time. And then once the B100 comes out, you're going to see the accelerated spending by big players overall. So personally, I'm not too worried about air pocket of weakness in overall revenue source because this is still a supply constraint market. Maybe air weakness in big tech spending, but like I mentioned, I do believe that will be covered by smaller players. So that's all I have for you folks. I want to hear from you. What do you think of all this kind of craze of analyst price targets? Are we going to continue to see a nice run up for Nvidia? And what are your thoughts on earnings? Again, I'm going to do a preview of earnings earlier this weekend. So make sure to stay tuned, subscribe, and see you all next time.